Hey, what's up guys? JB here. So we're smack in the middle of our 2.5 year anniversary here on Global, and I've seen a lot of activity on Discord and on Reddit from new or even returning players. Maybe who haven't played, in quite some time, and I think that is really great to see. So, welcome back or welcome to the game. I think a lot of us veterans, can sometimes take for granted, all of the institutional knowledge that we've built up by playing the game over time over the last couple of years. And when you step back, this really is a very complex game. And that's actually one of the things that I love most about it. Most mobile games out there really aren't all that complex or interesting. But to take it a step further, because we are dealing with limited resources in the game, it is certainly possible to stunt the growth or potential of your account, if you make uninformed investment choices early on. Now, I don't often do content that is catered towards newer players, but today that is exactly what I'm going to do. And we're going to look at an area that I see often overlooked by newer players, and that is vision cards. Now, units are certainly more fun, and we gain a certain attachment to those units. I totally get that. But in my view, vision cards are just as important, if not more so, than those units. They are a large part of what makes a functional team composition in War of the Visions. I really wanted to make this guide now because as I speak, we are just getting so many of these anniversary medals, which in turn can be turned in for shards of choice for anything from the permanent vision card or unit pool. And I am going to highly advise you guys out there, as tempting as it may be, do not spend those on units, or at a minimum, do not spend all of them on your units. Reason being, as you'll soon come to find, vision cards are very difficult to finish and catch up on if you don't happen to be grabbing them while they're on banner at that moment. So these anniversary medals are actually a great opportunity to maybe finish off one or two vision cards and really set your team up for success. So let's just go ahead and get into what I have for you guys here today. Before we begin though, I am just going to level set in terms of the presentation that I have here. And the first thing that I want to say is I'm only going to be considering permanent pool vision cards. Of course, there are many limited time vision cards out there, and many of those are often the best for their respective elements. But limited time cards come and go, and for the most part, once they're gone, they're gone. And you're not going to be able to use any of those anniversary medals or do any sort of hard quests to build them up. So I do think it is very important to limit the scope today to just those things which are part of the permanent pool, which you can pull and build at any time. Now, second, in terms of the information that I have here today, I am going to go element by element with some suggested cards that I think you should build. Now, in terms of how you should take that information and act on it, I am going to suggest that you come up with a plan and a direction for your account, and most likely that is going to be based upon the units and maybe even some of the vision cards that you've already pulled so far, or maybe that you want to start building in the future. So look closely at the suggestions that I have for the element of choice and then go ahead and take it from there. Now, depending on where you're at in the account building process, you may want to set your preference towards building cards which can be used for multiple elements, and I am generally going to refer to those as rainbow or multi-element effective cards. And I have included several of those cards here amongst the choices, and generally I'm going to have one for each element, if not more. And I will be marking those effects with this particular icon here on point 3. Alright, I think that that's everything that I have here in terms of the setup, so let's go ahead and kick it off with the vision cards, and I'm going to start with the dark element. And my number one recommendation for the dark element could very well be my number one vision card overall to grab from the permanent pool, and that is the Black Rose of the Battlefield card. This is an unconditional 15% agility, so you can really use it in any party that you make. It does have a second effect for dark units only, and that is a 25 accuracy effect. So great overall card, and it even has a nice ability on there that mages can use to boot. Now my second card is a more recent one, and that is going to be Garvel's Vision card, which is a loyal companion. This is a very nice card which brings 20 area resist to dark parties. The 25 crit chance definitely can make it pretty attractive even for mixed damage parties as well. Finally, my third recommendation is going to be the Maidens of the Rose card here. And this is actually a global exclusive card, which is kind of interesting, and it is a very powerful one. I think it is a must for most dark parties out there. And this one is going to give a full 35% up to your luck and your dexterity, while also providing the party some slash resist penetration. So those effects definitely make it well suited for both an evade or an accuracy based party. So those are going to be my top 3 recommendations for the dark elements, and I'm going to put an honorable mention here to the two-headed dragon card, which is definitely a must for PvE events with its damage up effect. Now next up is the light elements, and light is definitely one of a handful of elements that just has so many limited time vision cards. So pulling from just the permanent pool I think was a little bit more challenging, but my number 1 recommendation for light is going to be what I view as a foundational card for pretty much anyone in the game, and this is going to be the Solidus vision card. And that's because this one provides an unconditional 20% slash resist for your party. Now to this day, slash damage is still the most common damage type that you'll see out there on the battlefield, which does give this card almost universal value. Now for light parties, this is also providing the 25% HP effect on it as well, which I often like to use. Now you can actually grind this card through Arena as well. The card itself and shards are available in the Arena Mog Shop. Now the next one up here is Jaden's Vision card, which is the Great Stag. Definitely a must if you're trying to build Jaden, I'd say, but outside of that, this is Light's 20% area resist card, and it does have that nice 35% dex value on it there as well. So I think this should be a great card, into the future if they ever finally decide to release Veritas of the Light. Now finally, we're going to have Rob's Vision card here, which is the Flash of Insight card. And this is a great card which is going to boost your attack for light parties by 50%. And it's also a very important card for building a light evade party. Now, if you are a newer player, you might not have access to the best units for that type of build. But even Rob himself, actually can be a pretty decent evade unit. And I'd say that his TMR is also a must-have, so definitely not a bad unit to look at building. All right, moving down the elemental wheel here, guys, and we're going to have the water element up here next. And one of my favorite cards for water is called Tune-Up Time. And I would say that this is up there, among some of the better cards available in the game. It has 3 effects on it, that are all very, very useful. And first and foremost, it's bringing that 25 physical human killer. Very nice for flexibility in your builds, in that it's going to affect any type of physical damage, whether it is slash, pierce, strike, or missile. On top of that, it is bringing 20 unit resistance. And that is just going to be a flat 20% damage reduction to any type of skill, which is going to be hitting a single tile. Now for good measure, it does have 13 accuracy on there as well, so definitely a very nice overall card. Now my second one is another one that I really love, and that is going to be Clairvoyant Astrologer. It's a great card not only for a water-based team, but also multi-element teams as well, as the 2 main effects of attack and acquired AP are both unconditional effects. Now it does bestow a really nice ability for pierce-based jobs that are wearing the card, and that is a nice AoE defense break ability. And I'd say, if you're not exactly sure which direction you want to take your account in terms of picking a particular element, I think that you could do much worse than picking this card, as your first card to build. As someone who's built up almost every card in the game, I can say that I definitely still use this one very often in many, many builds. Now my last one here for the water element is more of a recent one, and this one is called A Vow to Meet Again. And this is their 15% agility card. Pretty good secondary effects on this one too. It does come in with some missile and lightning resist there on top of it. And here is the lightning elements. I'm sure there might be a few of you out there who have pulled Final Fantasy XIII's lightning and are looking to build around her and her elements. And definitely grab her card from the event, no question, it is a great one. But what are some things that you're going to want to look at putting alongside that from the permanent pool? And my first recommendation here is going to be Salir versus Raychess. It's a 15% agility along with some acquired AP for the lightning party. Now the base stats on it do make it a very flexible card as well for who you can use it on. The base stats have a very nice mix of both attack and magic. Now I do really like the bestowed ability on this one as well. This one is going to give some area resist, and that is actually going to pair very nicely with the Final Fantasy XIII card and going to allow you to do some area resist stacking. Now my second recommendation here is an older card, but probably one of the better ones, from the first year of the game, and that is the Aigayan card. So similar to the Astrologer card, this has 2 effects here that will work on multi-element parties. And that is going to be your slash attack and accuracy. Now for lightning parties, it is adding the 25% HP effect in there as well. HP has almost universal defensive value in the game, so I always do like that one for pretty much any party. The other nice thing about the HP up effect is it does go very nicely into your secondary slot. It doesn't actually lose much value when you equip it there. Now I actually did make a video some time ago, all about secondary or sub-slot vision cards. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about that, I will put a link to that video above. Now the last one here for Lightning is a card that we actually got earlier this year, and that is the Europa Vision card. I do like this one for the overall mix of stats that it gives. You know, it has some agility, some magic attack, and some crit damage up in there. One of the overall themes for the lightning element so far has been sort of critting and crit damage, so it does work very nicely there. The bestowed ability on the card is very nice as well. It gives mages a way to lower their cast time, which actually is a somewhat rare effect to find in the game. Alright, let's look at Earth here next. And first up on my list is going to be Eleficaris. This one has a 20 unit resistance and 8% agility on it, and it is bringing in 35 pierce attack as well. Definitely good if you were looking to build up Oberon. You know, it's really tailor-made for him. I think that those first two effects, though, are good enough to pretty much carry it into almost any Earth party, though. Now, my second card is going to be Dreams of Heroism, and this card actually was recently rerun alongside Queen Mashari. It is a really nice defensive card as it has the combination of both area resist and HP up for your party. The TP effect on it is, I would say, kind of whatever. You know, it's not super useful for most units out there, but I think that the first two effects more than make up for it. Really nice base stats and bestowed ability on this one as well, you know, especially for Queen Mashari. Now my third one up here is a classic, and this one is the Secrets of the Heart card featuring Catone. This was actually one of the first Vision card banners that we had in War of the Visions very early on, and I'd say this is a definite must if you're looking for any sort of evade build, and that's because this provides a 35% luck to your party, and any element is actually able to take advantage of that. Now this card actually does double as a very nice accuracy card as well, since luck not only will impact your evade stat, but also your accuracy. Alright, so what about the wind element? Definitely could be a popular one. You know, we do have Flagbearer Glassy releasing this week on Global, and definitely not a bad choice for pulling and building around, especially with Halloween Little Leela, you know, returning in the Halloween event very shortly as well. And my number one recommendation here for winds, and a definite contender for one of the best Vision cards in the entirety of War of the Visions, is the Culmination Vision card. This one, of course, is featuring Sadali versus Gilgamesh here in the artwork. It has the insane combo of both area resist 20 and 15% agility on it. It throws some crit evasion in there, you know, if that weren't good enough. So this is really perfect for any wind party and really helps their slot efficiency, you know, when it comes to card effects. So can't really say enough good things about this one. Now, after that, I would say there is a pretty steep drop off, you know, when it comes to permanent pool cards for winds. But, you know, I definitely can recommend the Typhon Vision card here. You know, it is actually a pretty good card for most magic-based parties. It has that 25 magic attack and 15 accuracy on it, which is unconditional. Now, another one that I can recommend for wind is going to be the Golden Ahriman card. And this one, I say, is definitely a staple in most of my wind parties. Really nice secondary card, I'd say. You know, it has that dexterity effect on it of 35%, and that one is a great one in the secondary just because that stat does not lose very much of its efficiency when you equip it there. Really nice tank Esper, you know, in Golden Ahriman, so if you did pull this card, you know, build that Esper up, you know, for sure. Alright, I have the ice element here next, and ice, I'd say, is super en vogue right now with Agrius and Snow running around, so I think a lot of you out there may be interested in this one. And my number one pick here, you know, when we're talking permanent pool, is going to be Odin. I think this is another one of those foundational Vision cards that really everyone should build up, not only because it's one of the best Espers, you know, for PvP, but the card effect here is bringing that 20 unit resistance that any element can take advantage of. Now, ice parties in particular are going to pick up 25 accuracy on top of that, and that is definitely going to be super nice for countering evade builds out there, so very useful card to have in your tool belt. Now, the second choice here is going to be Laswell's Vision card, the Mystical Ice Laswell card, also featuring Shiva there on the front. I'd say this is a great choice for pretty much any ice party, but it's going to be especially nice for physical-based ice parties. And that's because it's giving a great combination of agility up, acquired AP, and that 25 physical human killer, which, you know, as we talked about a little bit earlier, just gives you very nice flexibility for mixing different damage types together. Now, last but not least for ice is going to be the Fenrir Vision card. And the main effect on this one is a unconditional 20% magic resistance. And alongside Odin and Solidus, you know, this is definitely another foundational card that, you know, everyone should have. For ice parties, you know, on top of the magic resist, it is going to come in with a 50% attack bonus as well. So despite being an older card, you know, I do think it is one of the better ones for the ice elements. It even has some nice base stats on there with some agility and dexterity. A nice bonus for this card is that you can actually build it with your guild tokens, and you can actually get up to 5 shards a day from the guild mog shop, which will definitely help you guys in building this this one out. All right, we've come to our final element, and it is fire. And fire's vision cards, definitely aren't the most well-revered, amongst all the elements. Many of the cards, I'd say, are definitely lacking synergy with what many of the fire units out there want to do. That said, my number one recommendation for fire is going to be Ifrit. And that's going to be for two reasons. One, that 50% attack bonus it's giving is unconditional. It can be used on any party, so definitely gives it nice flexibility there. But second is that this card leans into what is probably fire's best use case right now, and that is as a counter to the ice element. And this is going to give fire units in the party an additional 20% ice resistance. So if you've been building out Delita, out there from the current event, this is definitely going to be a nice investment for you. Now, next up, I am going to recommend Brachiosaur, and this is actually very similar to the Eleficaris card we looked at earlier. It's bringing a nice combination of both agility and unit resistance on it. If you were able to grab Setia from the rerun of the Warriors of the Crystal, this one actually also doubles as the best vision card for her, as it's bringing in that 35 missile attack on it as well. Now, my last one here for fire is going to be the Encounter of Heroes vision card. And this is definitely one of the better cards that Fire has for maybe a support unit or a mage in the party. Now, on top of the 50% magic up bonus that it's bringing, it does have a couple of other nice effects here that are good for pretty much any fire party. And that is going to be 20% slash resist and 13 accuracy. So that is going to wrap up my recommendations there for each element and the top 3 vision cards. I do have a quick bonus section here for 90 cost vision cards. Now, of course, these are very hard to pull. They have a half rate, amongst the general pool vision cards. But if you were lucky enough to grab one of these, I think that you should definitely build them up, especially if you are interested in one of the elements that they support. Of course, all of these cards are super, super nice. They are among the best, if not the best, for their respective elements. Not only because of the great party effects that they bring, but also because the base stats on the card are just so much better than anything else that you can find out there for vision cards. So there it is, guys. That is my top 3 vision card recommendations for each element. And I think that you may have noticed there along the way that, many of the card effects that I was suggesting actually were, the same from element to element. And that was definitely by design. There are just certain effects, that myself and others have found over time just have almost universal value, in terms of fielding many different types of team compositions. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you can often hear me referring to that as my trifecta setup. And those effects are agility, single target resistance, and area resistance. And I think if you're able to build up a set of cards which includes those effects, you'll be well on your way to being at a more competitive level. But of course, the journey really never ends there. You'll want to then sort of have some more niche cards, for certain matchups or damage types. And, beyond that, you're going to then want to start branching off into other elements and starting the process all over again. So I'm sure some of my veteran viewers out there, you may have some other recommendations that I didn't touch on today. If you do, go ahead and put a comment down below. Just remember that I was only looking at permanent cards here today. If you're a newer or returning player and you found this information helpful and you'd like to see more content like this from me in the future, definitely go ahead and let me know about that one too. If you enjoyed the video today, hit that like button. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. And that's really all I have to say for today. So as always, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.